Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum. Thank you so much for joining us, inshallah, in tonight's session. We are going to discuss Munajat Sha'baniyah by Imam Ali alayhi salam, Hazrat Ali alayhi salam, who is respected and loved by all the Muslims around the world. It's a very beautiful munajat in which Imam Ali talks to God, and as we go through these phrases, we learn so much about how our relationship with God should be. And I am going to make a claim that I think we are all going to learn that a lot of the way we think about God or we talk to God does not match with what we're going to find in Munajat Sha'baniyah of Imam Ali alayhi salam. Now, I know a lot of us may have read this. Every year in Sha'ban, a lot of Muslims go through this munajat and read this, but I feel like there are still so much within this that has not become part of the way we structure our relationship with God, right? And we'll go through it and you can tell me what you think. I'll try to give a short presentation around 20 minutes, and then I would like to start discussing it with you. Although, let me give you a warning. Last time I said it's going to be a presentation in 20 minutes. It finished after 37 minutes. So we have no idea how long 20 minutes is in this part of the world. Let's see what happens. But let's begin. Let's jump into the munajat and see how is Imam Ali alayhi salam talking to God. Cool. I have, by the way, chosen a selection of the phrases from the dua because the whole dua is longer. We may not have enough time to go through all of it. So I've selected phrases which I think are more significant and are more a good, can we call, show the heart of Munajat Sha'baniyah. Just one thing. I believe the way I look at Munajat Sha'baniyah, I feel like the whole Munajat, Imam Ali is trying to get a point across to us as well, because as he's talking to God, he's also teaching a lot of things to us. And I think the main point here is that we need two things at the same time. And I feel like in a lot of religious communities, one of them is very, very much lacking. It's missing. See, when you go through Munajat Sha'baniyah, you realize that the dua is very real. It's very real. Real, what do I mean by real? Real in the sense that it doesn't shy away from acknowledging the flaws that we may have, right? It's not like, oh, I'm perfect, I'm awesome, I'm great, and I've got no shortcomings. No, it's very real about it. This is my shortcoming, these are my flaws, which I think it's a great idea because initially, right from the beginning, it removes the pressure and burden that, as a person who wants to be spiritual, you have to be perfect, right? No, immediately it says, no. Forget about perfection. Perfection is for God. We're all flawed. We all have shortcomings. Part of it due to our own faults. Part of it has nothing to do with our faults, has happened to us, right? So this is a very important element of it, that we're flawed, we're not perfect. We've got shortcomings, nothing wrong with that. But then the second part of the dua, which I think is maybe 80%, 90% lacking in a lot of religious communities, especially Muslim communities that I have more interaction with, is the second part, and that is how God's love is a source of healing, and that God will never deprive us of his love, no matter how much shortcomings and mistakes we have, right? Because I have been actually dealing with this a lot with a lot of Muslim people. As soon as you speak a little bit about God's love, they're like, yeah, God is loving, but, right? There's a big but there, like, God is loving, but God is loving, however, God is loving, they always have this thing, God is loving. In Munajat Sha'baniyah, Imam Ali alayhi salam shows us that we are understanding this very wrong. A lot of the times, the way we explain God's love, by the time we are done with explaining, the person may say, well, how is that loving? See, God loves you so much,
But if you make one mistake, you're done. God hates you, and this and that.
You know? Well, what kind of love is that? To me, that's like a very sick love. That's abusive love, right? That's like it's not like a love. That's it's a bad love. And if God has been explained to us like this, well then no wonder we can't really relate to him. And now I may have exaggerated a little bit, but I don't think I did. A lot of people really are like that. They even message me. They're like, Sheikh, we get it that you are saying that God is loving, but you also have to say God is this. I'm like, first of all, a lot of what I say has nothing to do with me. I'm sharing what's in the Quran or what the Imams say, right? Do you want to go to the Imam and tell him, Imam, I know you're saying God is loving, but which people did, by the way. Don't think if the people who are now objecting to what I'm saying were alive at the time of the Imams, wouldn't object to the Imams. They actually did. They even objected to the Prophet. We have evidence of that. For example, the Prophet, I discussed this in the last session, the Prophet told people that today we've come back to Mecca, these people hurt us, but we're all going to forgive them. We're going to forgive all of them. But people were like, why should we forgive them? No, see? So even at the time of Prophet and Imams, people objected to them. They couldn't accept God's love, Prophet's love. We have the same issue now. But let's forget about them. Let's see what does Imam Ali say in Munajat Sha'baniyah. It's going to change, hopefully, the way we look at things. And another good thing is that from now onwards, if someone speaks to you and keeps telling you things about God which are not true, you can discuss them. We discuss these with them. Say, see, this is what Imam Ali is saying. Okay. One of the things that I discussed was these two main foundations of Munajat Sha'baniyah. One being that we have flaws. There's no problem with that. Just because I have a mistake doesn't mean God doesn't love me. No. It's very clear in these lines that I'm going to recite for you. Imam Ali says, Ilahi, in kuntu ghayra musta'hilin li rahmatik, فأنت أهل أن تجود علي بفضل ساعتك. Ilahi, my Lord, my God, even if I don't deserve your mercy, right? But you are, like, I may not be worthy of your mercy, but you're the kind of being that gives anyway, right? And we have seen examples of like that in our own life. Not with God, even with normal people. There are people who are so generous that even to someone who hurts them or has not deserved a favor, they still go and help, right? Well, if this is something that even in this world we've seen, that there are people who even give to those who've hurt them, why can't God be like that, right? So Imam Ali is saying, see, don't keep telling me that, if you get mistakes or if you've committed sins, etc., God would stop loving you. No. In kuntu ghayra musta'hilin li rahmatik, if I'm not worthy, if I don't deserve your mercy, but anta ahlun an tajuda alayya bifadli sa'atik, but God, you are the kind of being that with the vast generosity and giving that it has will give to me anyway, right? And then it's so interesting. Imam Ali at this point paints a picture. It's very visual. It says, إلهي كأني بنفسي واقفة بين يديك وقد أظلها حسن توكلي عليك. He's saying, I can picture myself, nafsi, standing in front of you. And it's probably, it's visualization, right? It's imagery, it's metaphor. Saying I can picture myself as if we're in a playing field and I'm standing in front of you, and probably there's sun and the sun is there, whatever that sun could be, but there's something which is protecting me, right? What is this thing which is giving me a shade, a kind of shelter? What is that? Husnu tawakkuli ilayk, right? He said, yes, the trust I have in you, the good belief I have in you, that you're nice to me, that you wouldn't hurt me, that you love me, that you're a being who gives, you're a being who loves, you're a being who forgives. That's like a shelter. So when I picture myself, when I imagine myself in front of you, I'm not scared, right? I feel safe, I feel sheltered, I feel protected. And my protection comes from the idea that I know you, right? I trust you, and you never harm anyone, right? These are all Imam Ali's points. And then Oh, and it says, I know, and you've said it, that you are the kind that forgives, right? And that you will treat me the way that is worthy of you. فَقُلْتَ مَا أَنْتَ أَهْلُهُ وَتَغَمَّدْتَنِي بِعَفْوِكَ. So if I'm standing there right in front of you, you're going to treat me and say things to me which are not the things I deserve, which are the things you are the kind to say, right? You will say nice things because you're the nice being. You're loving. You're forgiving. It's beautiful, right? Is it not? Is it not beautiful? Let's go to the next part of the dua. This is also very interesting, and there are a few things here which I think would really help us. إلهي لم يزل برك علي أيام حياتي فلا تقطع برك عني في مماتي. إلهي كيف آيس من حسن نظرك لي بعد مماتي وأنت لم تولني إلا الجميل في حياتي. Imam Ali says to God, when I was in this world, you never stopped giving favors to me. You never stopped taking care of me. You never stopped loving me. You never stopped having concerns for me. You never stopped protecting me. So why should this change with my death? Why should it be that after I die, instead of you taking care of me, loving me, suddenly you would change and be not nice and hurt me and etc.? Right? It's a very beautiful point. It's a very beautiful argument Imam Ali is putting out there. He's saying, you, in this world, I've encountered you and you loved me. You sent guidance to me. You sent me parents who would take care of me. You did this for me. You did that for me. I made a mistake. You covered it. You were loving to me. You wanted to guide me. Okay, why would you suddenly change after I die? You wouldn't. My death does not have the power to change who you are. Even after I die, you're going to be the same loving, kind, forgiving God that I know you to be. Right? It says, how can I despair over how you're going to be treating me after I die? I know you, right? You were always loving to me. And the fact that I'm going to die, that's not going to make that change. And I think this is a part that we really don't talk about religion like this. A lot of the times, the way people speak about religion is that as soon as you die, you're going to see a whole different view of God. Like suddenly God's going to be like, ooh, the time for love is over. The time for punishment has begun. You know, that's the kind of God they paint. But Imam Ali says, no, you're the same God, loving here, loving there, forgiving here, forgiving there. Right? And I think these are very important. And then someone may say, well, hang on a second. So you're saying that, we deserve to be... No. It's not about deserving. I think God is like this. In fact, Imam Ali says a beautiful sentence here. He says, فَقَدْ جَعَلْتُ الْإِقْرَارَ بِالذَّنْبِ إِلَيْكَ وَسِيلَتِي. This is, I think, a very important concept that Imam Ali talks about. And when he says, see, I'm not like the others who say that if you've got mistakes or sins, that means God will hate you. No, I'm going to use my shortcomings as a way to get closer to God. How? By confessing to them. By going to God and talk to God about them. He says, in fact, I am going to use my shortcomings, my sins, my flaws as a path towards God. As my means towards God. How? By going to God and say, God, this is who I am. This is Javad with all his flaws, with all his shortcomings, etc., etc. But I love you. And I felt your love, or I want to feel your love. This is who I am. Right? And you will accept me. Imam Ali is saying this. See? Now, I really want you to take one moment and not because I'm saying or anything. Just check this with what they are teaching us, right? They're teaching us if you've got mistakes, God will hate you. They're teaching us if this, that. What is Imam Ali saying? I'm saying, no. I'm going to use my shortcomings and flaws to get closer to God. Aren't these two very different? Are these two the same religion? To me, they look like two different religions. What you can find in Munajat, Sha'baniyah, and what you can find among some of the people, right? And again, I'm not attacking anyone. I'm just saying, let's reclaim our religion. Let's reclaim God. Let's see God for how loving and forgiving God is, right? So that's that. Okay, let's go to the next section. Beautiful. إلهي قد سترت علي ذنوبا في الدنيا وأنا أحوج إلى سترها علي منك في الأخرى. It's so interesting. It's so interesting. And what it says, in this world, you covered some of the mistakes I made, some of the sins I committed, right? Well, every single one of us, we've done things that no one knows, even the closest people in our life. We're no saints. At least I am not. If you are, awesome, right? I'm not a saint. A lot of us were not saints. We've had mistakes, and there's nothing wrong with that, right? This is our whole journey. We're not expected to be perfect. The whole concept of you have to be perfect and without any mistakes, I can't see how it has anything to do with religion, with Islam, because I see religion, in fact, for people who are dealing with shortcomings, with their traumas, with their baggages, and so many things. If we're perfect, why do we need a religion for? So Imam Ali is now telling God, in this world, I made a lot of mistakes, but you covered a lot of them. Even sometimes my family members, close people around me, didn't realize my mistakes. You didn't expose me. You covered it for me, right? Do you remember in Dua Araf, Imam Hussein was saying something similar? Ya man usiya fasatar. I disobeyed you, but you covered, so I wouldn't get exposed, so people wouldn't, I wouldn't get embarrassed in front of people. I think you did this to me in this world, but I need it even more after I die. وَأَنَا أَحْوَجُ إِلَى سَاتْرِهَا. Like, after I die, once we go to the other world, to the other realm, I need this covering even more. If you didn't expose me in this world, don't expose me in the other world as well. And when Imam Ali asked that to God, don't every single one of us think for a second that that's such a good thing to ask, right? That's such a beautiful point, right? When Imam Ali says that, I think in our heart we can all relate to this. Well, I couldn't get exposed now, but obviously I don't want to get exposed in the other world either, right? And or for example, it says, إذ لم تظهرها لأحد من عبادك الصالحين فلا تفضحني يوم القيامة على رؤوس الأشهاد. Right? Do not expose me, God, on the day of resurrection in front of all the witnesses. Right? In front of all the people who are there. In this world, maybe a few people were there who would have been noticing my mistakes. Now on the day of judgment, on the day of resurrection, I'm going to be getting exposed in front of everyone. Don't do that to me, God. Imam Ali says, I need your covering even more there. Now, up to this point, someone may say, well, it's not like God said, I'll do this, what Imam Ali is saying, although then you would be stretching it a little bit, because who knows God better than Imam Ali? And if Imam Ali is asking something from God, don't you think it's going to be like how God is? But okay, fair enough. The next line, now someone may say, why would you expect this of God? Imam Ali explains, Ilahi juduka basata amali. Right? If you ask Imam, how do you expect God to be so nice? He didn't expose you in this world, and you're like, even in the other world, don't expose me. I need that cover and protection and safety from like my reputation in the other world. How do you expect God to do that? Like, what's your proof that God would do that? Imam Ali replies, Ilahi juduka basata amali. Your generosity. God, it was your own generosity. Your own qualities are what raise my hope, right? And that's why I think like this about you, because I know you're nice, you've got a lot of generosity, and that's what keeps giving me hope. And so, by the way, lovely people, your questions, if it's okay, let's discuss them after, okay? I'll just quickly finish my presentation, and afterwards, we'll engage with all the questions. Right now, I'm just thinking, because I don't want people to get distracted, okay? If they see the comments, their thoughts may go there. So at the end, I think in maybe 5-6 minutes, we'll start talking about your beautiful questions. Thank you so much, by the way, for having them, because questions are the best thing in the world, perhaps, or at least one of the best things after pizza. So see, this is a very important sentence. Ilahi juduka basata amali. And this is very important. If someone says, Sheikh Jawad, why do you keep saying God is loving? Why do you say God will forgive? Why do you say God? Because God is like that. God is generous, his own qualities. And it's not me saying it, Imam Ali is saying it. And there's actually a very beautiful story of someone who went next to the Prophet. And this is at the time of the Prophet. This story has been mentioned. The person went to the Prophet and asked the Prophet, on the day of judgment, who's going to look at my deeds? Like, who's going to check? And the person says, God. And then the person says, okay, so we're fine. Right? Why? The Prophet says, why? And then he says, Al-Karim idha qadara afa. Right? Karim, a noble person, a generous person, a kind person, when he has the power to get revenge or not, they will forgive. Al-Karim idha qadara afa. Which is actually later on, our Imams told us to be like that. Someone hurt you, now you're in a position of power over them. Right? You can't take revenge or not. The hadith says, if you want to be like us, don't take revenge. Forgive them. Find it in your heart. Take the steps necessary. They're not forcing us. Take the steps necessary. Work on yourself. Get yourself to a place where you can heal them. Forgive them. Sorry, not heal. Forgive them. Right? So if this is something that Imams asked of us, Al-Karim, well, do you think God himself would not do that? When he can't forgive, he wouldn't forgive? Will God ask something of us that he himself is not going to be doing? Right? In this world, if you see someone who, despite being able to take revenge, but forgives, don't you say, oh, that's a nice person. Oh, that's a nice quality. Doesn't something inside you turn on that say, ooh, that was nice? If you see that in a movie, that someone hurt someone, and after a lot of ups and downs, and this person went through a journey, and by the end of it, they managed to get themselves to a place to forgive, won't a small tear come from your eye and be like, wow, that was such an emotional journey? Well, if this is something beautiful, then why don't you expect the beauty to be found in God? Why is it that when we speak about God, we suddenly think of him as someone who won't forgive? As soon as we die, his vengeful side will come up and there's no forgiveness, there's no love. See? There's some flaws in the way we think. We'll speak about justice and all of this at the end, okay? In the Q&A, by the way, because I know these questions may pop up in your mind. Like, what about justice? Or for example, what about this? What about that? What about this? We'll talk about all of this. For now, let's let this point sit in your heart, because the thing is this, the other side of it is already so deep in our heart, right? Saying, but we have this verse, but we have this verse, but what about justice? But what about this? But I'm saying, okay, we'll get to them, but let's at least this part, these loving parts sit in your heart. Did you any time when they kept telling you about justice and all of that say, but what about love? But what about love, right? So let this part sit in your heart, then we'll talk about how to understand this with other things which are there. Okay? Why should we be good? Why should we make an effort to be good? We'll talk about all of this, but in brackets, because life becomes easier when you're good. The quality of your own life increases when you're good. Okay. وَأَفْوُكَ أَفْضَلُ مِنْ عَمَلِي. Imam says to God, your forgiveness is much larger than my actions, whether good or bad, right? Let's say I have this much bad actions. You're so good, you're so forgiving that all of my actions just disappear in front of your forgiveness, right? Imagine, like I'll talk about myself, because someone say, what about my bad actions? Well, let's talk about me. I've got some bad actions. Imam Ali says, see, Jawad's bad actions are like a little bit of a bacteria. And think of God's forgiveness as an ocean of antibacterial hand sanitizer, right? If my actions, which is a little bit of a bacteria, falls into an ocean of 99% antibacterial hand sanitizer, will there anything be left of me, of my actions? No. So this is what Imam Ali is saying. Afwuka, God, your forgiveness is way bigger, way greater than my actions. It can dissolve my mistakes. Okay, let's go to the next phrase. How are you feeling, by the way? Don't you sleep. Don't you sleep. Although if you want to sleep, it's okay, sleep. Why am I saying don't sleep? Sleep well. I hope my voice is soothing enough so you don't see nightmares. If you saw any nightmares, please message us. There would be a full refund, but you have to message within 24 hours or there will be no refund for you. Look at this line. Look at this line. Ya, this is a name Imam Ali is mentioning about God. Ya akrama man i'tadhara ilayhi al-musi'un. Oh, the most noble, the most magnanimous of all those before whom a guilty person has made an apology. Let me open this. This is super important. Believe me, this one line can change the way you think about religion. See, Imam says, think of all the noble people you can think of. And what do we mean by noble? By noble, we mean someone like Akram, by Karim. We mentioned one of the qualities of Karim. Al-Karim idha qadara afa. Karim is a person who that when there's in a position to take revenge or forgives. There are so many qualities, right, that the Karim has. Karim gives even to those who've harmed him, even to those who've hurt him. Karim, when he has an opportunity to take revenge, forgives. All of these things. Think of some of these people in your own life or in the world, right? I've seen a few people like that. For example, one of them I'm writing a book about, said Musa Sadr in Lebanon. This guy who disappeared in 1974. Some say Gaddafi stole him, whatever. Let's forget about that. But this person, at some point, a group of people went to him and said, help us, we need your help. He went out of his way to help him. So he was in Lebanon. He traveled outside to go and help him, talk to different people. He even went to different countries, trying to get the presidents to come and solve their issue. But as soon as he left the country, those people started attacking him, right? The same people who asked for his help, they started attacking him. And the news reached him that, these people are spreading rumors against you. They're, there's in newspaper, they're saying all sorts of things about you, right? So imagine, he went out of his way to help this group, and this group started attacking him, spreading rumors about him. At some point, they even attacked his house, but he still didn't cancel his journey. He went all the way to the end and tried to talk to so many people to help them, and then came back, solved their problem, and didn't mention anything about what they'd done to him, right? This is one person. If one person can be this forgiving, Imam Ali says God. And by the way, they didn't even apologize to him, and yet he forgave. And then Imam Ali here is saying what? Imam Ali is saying, see, if one person can, despite being attacked and not receiving any apology, forgive, not just forgive, but go out of his way to help, do you think God is any less than this? Right? Do you think God is any less than that? No, it's the opposite. Imam says, God, ya akrama man i'tadhara ilayhi al-musi'un. Right? He's saying God is the kindest, the nicest, the most forgiving, the most noble. There is no one who treats an apology with more grace than God. And I have seen in this world people who really accept an apology, no matter what the other person has done. So if we've seen this, and God is even kinder than that, even more graceful than that, then what is God like? Right? I've seen in this world people who were in prison for 20 years or 30 years, and after they came out of prison, they forgave the prisoner. Right? Probably you know them as well, right? We've got amazing examples, beautiful examples of forgiveness in this world. A person who, someone took the life of their child, but they forgave. A person who was in prison for 30 years, they came out, they forgave, right? Even Imam Hussein on the day of Ashura, Hurr ibn Riyahi, stopped Imam Hussein and his family. He was the main cause why Imam Hussein and his family all got attacked and killed at the end. But still Imam Hussein forgave. And Imam Ali says, God, you are more noble, more graceful, more acceptance of apology than every single one of these examples. By far. Ya akrama man i'tadara ilayhi al-musi'un. So do you think if I go to God with my mistakes and say, God, I'm sorry, He won't accept? Then what kind of God is this? Is Nelson Mandela more forgiving than God? Is Imam Hussein more forgiving than God? Na'udhu billah. What is this? No. See, these are Imam Ali. It's not me. It's Imam Ali. I'm going to quickly finish because I want to go to the Q&A. And I've already exceeded the 20 minutes as expected. I'll quickly I won't explain these much. I'll just read them because they're so beautiful. Ilahi law aradta hawani lam tahdini. If you wanted on the day of judgment to humiliate me, to hurt me, to embarrass me, you would have never sent guidance for me. You would have never guided me. But you did. You guided me. Right? وَلَوْ أَرَدْتَ فَضِيحَتِي لَمْ تُعَافِنِي. If you wanted to expose me, you would have not saved me. You would have not saved me. So if you wanted to embarrass me or expose me, you would have never guided me, you would have never saved me. But you did. You saved me. You guided me. So that means you never want to embarrass me. Right? It's Imam Ali. And then Ilahi in akhadthani bijurmi akhadtuka bi'uffik. If you say I've got shortcomings, I say you've got forgiveness, and your forgiveness is way bigger than my shortcoming. Right? If my worship is too little, and kana sabura fi janbi ta'atika amali, if my action is too little, as too little of a worship, faqad kabura fi janbi raja'ika amali. But I have so much hope in you. See, I may not have actions, but I have hope. And that does it. That's enough. And I don't have hope for no reason. Juduka basata amali. It's your own lovingness that gives me hope. I need to read a little bit faster. It says, how can I return from you with disappointment and deprivation? Impossible. How can a person come to you and turn back disappointed? Impossible. Right? Impossible. How can anyone come to you and then return disappointed? وقد كان حسن ظني بجودك أن تغلبني بالنجاة مرحوما. While I expect of you with your generosity to give me safety and mercy, najat, salvation. This is my hope in you. Obviously, I'm not going to come to you disappointed. And then Imam says, إلهي لم يكن لي حول فأنتقل به عن معصيتك إلا في وقت أيقظتني لمحبتك. This is a sentence I've said so many times, and I think this has to be at the top of our religious discussions everywhere. إلهي لم يكن لي حول فأنتقل به عن معصيتك إلا في وقت أيقظتني لمحبتك. God, I have no strength to distance myself from my shortcomings. I have no strength to fix my sins, to quit my addictions, unless إلا في وقت أيقظتني لمحبتك, unless you've awakened me to your love. I need to feel love in order to improve. Right? If you want us to improve, make us feel love. This is what Imam Ali is saying. Don't go around making people not love God, making people scared of God. Imam Ali says, I have no strength by which to become a better person unless in times in which I have been awakened to your love. And I wish I had more time to discuss this. We can go into this so deep.